Hey brothers and sisters, it's Tris. Um, just found a nice little grove here just to be able to kind of speak to you about my testimony and exactly what happened in my conversion. Um, I've got a very long testimony, so I'll try and keep it short. So I grew up in a good home, a loving home with loving people around me, mother, and got on well with my sisters. And when I was 11, my mother got remarried and had lots more children, and it was just as I was going to secondary school, and up until then I was a happy little boy. I just normal really. Growing up, I kind of always had a spiritual input because my mother is a nominal Christian and my grandparents were Christians. Um, So I had some kind of grounding, I suppose. They used to force me to go to church, which I hated. Dressing up in a tie and a jacket and stuff. Just hated it. Anyway, when I went to secondary school, I started to listen to um, heavy rock music, like Rage Against the Machine, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, that kind of thing. And I loved it at the time. And it kind of inspired this want in me to be that kind of American dream rock star person. And I started to listen to the lyrics as though they were like my spiritual mentors. And it got me into all sorts of trouble, really, because by the time I was 15, I'd started to take drugs, and I was very heavily into rock music by then, and I turned from what was a very nice little boy, I think, anyway, into a terror. Arguing with mum and dad all the time and my siblings, and just being very unhappy. Um, and it wasn't helped by the fact that my stepdad was extremely strict when he first started to be a part of the family, which caused me to rebel. And I rebelled at school as well. I was a total nightmare. People knew me as a bad boy, um, which I reveled in, but yeah, I started to get into drugs quite a young age, and I had what I would consider spiritual experiences. And up until this point, my best friend now, who I've known since the beginning of secondary school, he was a Christian, and him and his parents invited me to a summer camp, a Christian summer camp, when we were about 13, and I heard the gospel for the first time there. And I can honestly say, when I look back in retrospect, that I believed then. But after that, we went back to school in September, and I kind of started. I had I was the soil that was choked by the plants because choked by the thistles. I mean, because I basically preached in a class at school, and my teacher, who was an atheist, just totally ripped me apart and shot me down. I can't remember the exact circumstances how I came to preach, but it was something along the lines of, "What did you do with your summer?" And I said, "Well, I found the Lord Jesus Christ and believed his gospel and this kind of stuff," and she just ripped me apart. And I felt that God wasn't there for me, and I didn't sense any kind of um, answer from him to this. And because I was getting more and more lost into rock music, and I just turned into this rebel. I remember one day going, "God, are you there? Just tell me if you're there and I'll believe in you." And nothing happened, and I just rejected him. And that's when I started to um, get into sexual immorality and masturbate, more and more, and started smoking, first of all cigarettes and then weed, and that started a 10-year long habit for me of smoking weed almost every day when I could get my hands on it. And not to mention other strong drugs, like by the time I was doing my GCSEs, I'd taken acid and ecstasy and all sorts of things in a kind of experimental stupor, and I got more and more lost. And I totally discounted Christ because of this incident that had happened to me. I'd heard the gospel, I believed, and then I felt he wasn't there when I needed him, I suppose, and needed him to prove himself in front of other people to me. And no one told me, because I had no roots, that this was a persecution. This was a devilish thing that had been set up to destroy me. And yeah, I got totally involved in all sorts of debauchery, and my parents wanted me to go away, and I wanted to go away as well after school. And to be honest with you, it was one of the best things that happened to me, because I was so involved in the rebellious kind of underground drug scene by the time I was 17. No, my parents had little clue. I think they knew, but not to the extent that it was going on. And they said, do you want to go to Pakistan, because your cousin Alex has phoned us to see whether you want to do a gap year teaching English there. And so I went to Pakistan and smoked my way all the way through it, and ended up leaving early. I enjoyed it, and I didn't. I got very ill there, and it's another long story, another rabbit going down the rabbit hole. But I ended up traveling the world. Came back from Pakistan, went to Australia for a year with a girlfriend, and she was my third girlfriend by then. I'd been to university for a year and dropped out, and we went to Australia together, and it didn't work out very well. And I was in my own band at this time, and I really wanted to go back and do that, basically, and try and make it. But it didn't work out very well, and so I ended up traveling again. I went to Croatia for a year, and I'd learned how to dive by this time. All the while trying to seek the answers. You know, I'd set about, at university, a friend of mine got me into astrology, and I set about kind of pouring myself into this, thinking that it was the answer, you know. And it took me deeper into witchcraft and other evil. And apart from my debauched lifestyle, where I was just kind of like partying all the time and trying to find satisfaction in something, because I was still a very miserable person, you know. Like I think people could see it. I mean, people liked me, but generally speaking, I wasn't that pleasant to be around, because I used to get paranoid all the time from the weed, and just used to be really quiet. And I'm still really quiet even now, but it's a quiet in a different way. It's a full quiet rather than any a paranoid kind of can't open my mouth quiet. And anyway, so I went to Croatia, and then no, don't do it. And I learned how to dive and became a dive instructor, and went to New Zealand after that for a couple of years. And that's where I got into a lot of trouble. Smoking weed all the time, mentally started to deteriorate. And during this whole time, I'd done a whole load of kind of like weird rituals. Like I got into Reiki and yoga. I got into yoga in Croatia, and tantric sex, learning how to multiple orgasm and stuff like that, and stuff that did kind of like was really fun and short-term satisfying at the time, but just took me into this bottomless pit of not only apathy but just misery. And I felt like I was further from the truth than ever. And then when I went to New Zealand, I woke up with the word wisdom, just wisdom. I just loved this word, wisdom. And little did I know that God was like putting that in my mind, wisdom. Go and seek wisdom. So I set about myself kind of like reading a lot. I read all sorts of like weird occult books like Conversations with God, the Celestine Prophecy, all that kind of new age junk. I got right into it, and I discovered a new age guru, I'd call him, kind of between Hindu and Buddhist. He kind of preached Zen Buddhism. His name was Osho, and I started to follow his teachings, and I bought his tarot cards, and I got into tarot cards, and I ended up with this tarot card habit, doing it all the time, like trying to work out exactly how the present worked. And it's a really hard thing to explain, but I got myself into an awful mental pickle where I could hardly move forward in the future, because I had to ask the cards everything and trying to suss out exactly what the plan was. And at this point I was just so far away from Christ and the kingdom of God. And when I came back from New Zealand, I was a total mess, really, mentally, and my family could see it, and I was a complete rebel to the point where I had just lost sanity, I suppose, like doing crazy things. And shortly after I got back from New Zealand, I started going to psychedelic trance parties, because while I was in New Zealand, I was going to all the kind of what I'd call dub reggae, kind of the popular music at the time in the early noughties in New Zealand, and got really into that kind of thing, and the drug scene and whatever there. And when I came back, I just went straight back into it like a duck takes to water, you know, and started going to these parties. Anyway, my friend bought me a ticket for helping him do this play that we put together, and I helped with the music and wrote a lot of the music. And so he bought me this ticket to this psychedelic trance festival. But by this time, even though on the surface I was trying to be normal and stuff, I was just full of turmoil. And I remember about a week before this festival, I just got to the end of my tether, and I was still doing the tarot cards and consulting astrological natal charts and divining, basically. And I got to the end of my tether with it, and I kind of like shook my fist at the sky one day, and it was a lovely evening, beautiful stars everywhere, and my eyes were full of tears, and I was so angry for some reason. And I shook my fist at the sky and said, "Whoever you are, reveal yourself, or I will kill myself." And he knew that I was serious, you know, because I got to the point where, and I know it was demons now, but I'd got to the point where it didn't matter to me whether I died in 50 years or 5 minutes. You know, who cares? You know, does it matter? I didn't believe in heaven or hell to an extent. I was kind of like following this Indian guru who was talking about the nirvana kind of moment that you can get from enlightenment, and I'd always kind of seeked for that, but I was just full of torment, really. And so anyway, I went to this psychedelic trance party, a lovely few days of weather. It was lovely and hot, and it's just amazing. It was really the first time I'd experienced that kind of like music, the psychedelic trance music, and I discovered that it's very spiritual. That I was there were a whole load of Hare Krishnas there, and people were kind of talking about love and happiness and joy, and it was a main kind of conversation to there was a whole load of like spiritual stuff going on there, and none of it was good, but it seemed good at the time. Anyway, there were these things called nitrous oxide balloons, which is basically laughing gas, and I was stoned obviously and drunk even, and my friends gave me something else. I don't even know what it was, and I came up on this drug, and I felt really, really good. Just a usual kind of drug high, but I did feel very good. But there was something spiritual about the music that I could hear that was going on. Anyway, to try and cut a long story very short, we all sat around in a circle, me and my friends, and I had one of these nitrous oxide balloons, and it was the first time I'd ever done it. People had offered me them in New Zealand, but I'd always declined, thinking it was a bit like sniffing glue or something. But at this time I was feeling completely reckless. I didn't care about my life at all. All I wanted to do was just die, really, and I die feeling good. Why not? Die at a party, and that's it then. So anyway, I was feeling reckless, so I had one of these. And I need to explain that up to this point I'd always tried to astral project. I'd heard about it a couple of years before, and I'd always wanted to come out of my body to feel what it was like. People had talked about it as this amazing experience, and so I had been striving through meditation and drug use and yoga and Reiki and whatever other witchcraft means I could to try and come out of my body and fly around like everybody said you could, and go different places and stuff. While your body stays on Earth, your spirit kind of goes out, and it interested me, and I had always wanted to do it. Anyway, I took this balloon, and I'd come down from the drugs, but it made me come up on them again, and for the first time ever, I came out of my body. And this is no hallucination or anything. This actually really happened, And literally, I came out of my body and I saw the spirit realm for the first time, and it was just amazing. And I felt amazing, and I felt liberated from my body. I was just like, And straight in my face was this presence going, "I am Jesus Christ," right in my face like this. And with that, I went straight back into my body, and I sat there and I was like, my mind has just blown, and all the other guys were around me, and there was a whole load of other stuff that happened that I won't say, but basically I thought to myself, right, I need to get away from these guys and go and meditate on this, because I just don't know what happened. I need to think about it. So I went off to the chill out zone, and I sat down and thought about what had just happened to me. I am Jesus Christ. What? I am Jesus Christ? Is that, I came out of my body, I saw the spirit realm. Am I Jesus Christ? I was thinking all these kind of things. And there's a whole load of like spiritual stuff that I just couldn't explain to you that was going on at the time as well. I had no idea about the spirit realm at that point, and I had no idea about demons or angels or anything like that. But anyway, I sat down at the chill out zone, and there were people around me, and I shut my eyes, and they were far enough away, and as soon as I shut my eyes, I was aware of a presence. I'm going to walk a little bit because I've got to sort back. I was aware of this presence, And I cannot describe to you how amazing it was. It was everything I'd ever looked for, everything I'd ever searched for was in that presence. It was love, but it was beyond any human love. I mean, my family is very loving, my mother is very loving, and you know, a mother's love is, you know, as close as you could ever get to that, I suppose. You know, she used to, when we were kids, cherish us, you know, lots of hugs and kisses and lots of love, and it was lovely growing up with my mother. But this was something else, you know. This was a presence that was so divine that I mean, the presence itself was heaven. It was so pure and so beautiful. And I said to the presence, I said, "Who are you?" out loud. You know, I don't know what everybody else thought around me. Who are you? Because I thought it was Buddha. I thought I'd been enlightened. You know, I thought, this is it. I've reached nirvana. I don't know. I feel so exquisite right now that I can't quite describe anything other than heaven. You know. And so I said, "Who are you?" Because I sensed the presence was a person. You know, thinking it was Buddha. And he said, "I am Jesus Christ." And I said, okay. You know, the thought did come to me that I discounted him, but when he said that, it was like I'd always known, you know. I'd always known that he was real. I'd always known that he had existed and that he was looking out for me, and even for all the evil that I'd done up till now in my life, that he was there the whole time, you know. And he said to me, "Now you'll be a Christian and you'll help the poor." And I said, okay. Because I'd always actually wanted to do that anyway. I'd always been thinking I wanted to help the poor in some way. Bango! Sorry, I've lost my dogs. There you are. And he said to me, "This is what you're aiming for." And with that, it's like scales fell from my ears. And I heard the most indescribably perfect and amazing chorus I've ever heard in my life, and I knew I was hearing heaven. And I knew that then and there that heaven was real and hell was real, even though I didn't think about hell at the time, but I knew heaven was real. And I mean, I've tried to describe it to people before and I've just come short. It was basically like, imagine every passionate worshipper who's ever lived, of God, and all of them singing at the top of their lungs with all the gusto they could muster. You know, let's say billions of them, if not trillions, all singing in perfect harmony a different song. Everyone was singing a different song, but it was all totally in harmony and totally perfectly synchronized. And I mean, it was beyond a human mind to make up. A lot of people have said to me, "Yeah, well, you were on drugs, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I was, but I know in my heart of hearts that no human mind can make that up. It was beyond the natural. It was supernatural." And that's really the story. And after that, when I kind of realized that heaven was real, it stopped, and I just felt the most amazing feeling come over me, and like it was a massaging in my back and on my shoulders, and I felt this weight lift off. And I hadn't repented of my sin at that point, in the kind of physical sense where I actually thought about my sins and repented. I was in a fornicating relationship at the time. Obviously I was on drugs. Jesus met me where I was, which was right at the bottom of the barrel, as someone who knew they were totally broken, and full of pride and arrogance and evil. And I think the humility to actually be in that situation for me, to actually say, do you know what, Jesus, I believe you, you're real, was enough at that point for him to grace me with the things that I've told you about. And so that's my conversion experience. There was something else that happened that I've never told anybody about, but straight after this happened, I got up from the from the meditating, and literally straight in front of me was this girl who I really fancied in New Zealand. She was amazing. I knew she was a high-powered witch, and she just had the most amazing aura about her, and she was amazingly beautiful as well. And suddenly she was there right in front of me, and I'm in England, and she gave me the most sultry kind of, come this way, I want to have sex with you and give you a good time kind of look. And all I could do, just because I was feeling this kind of like relief, and I knew it was true love, and I knew it was holiness, it just seemed so funny in front of me to have this girl like do this, and I laughed at her, and I walked away. Whereas before this happened, I would have been straight on the case, even if I was with a girl at the time. So after, in hindsight, in retrospect, I realized that she had astral projected, because Satan knew that this moment was a defining moment in my life, where Christ had come in and completely washed me clean, even though there was still a very long way to go. And he sent one of his servants, I suppose, to make me fall into sin immediately and take cares for this life and lose what I had just found, I suppose, which didn't happen, praise the Lord. And that's my conversion story. There's so much more to it, and there's so much more that happened after it, but that is essentially how the Lord saved me. Oh, I forgot to mention that it was my birthday. That day was my birthday, so I was born again, baptized in the Spirit on my birthday, which is a nice touch. Whenever I have my birthday, I can celebrate my Spirit's birthday as well, where I was reawakened to the things of God and started to come into connection with him. And I'll go a little bit further. After that, you would have thought, oh well, life's going to be good now, but actually my life turned to complete misery and hell after that, because what I didn't realize was, from all the rituals and all the witchcraft I'd done, I was full of demons, full of them. And they just raged in me after that, and they tried to kill me, and I was having suicidal tendencies and doing crazy things and just very mentally unstable. And my family noticed it immediately. If I wasn't crazy before, now I was crazy, and I think I was probably very unpleasant to be around, and I had some terrible arguments with them. Yeah, it wasn't fun, and for the next 3 years my life was just miserable, But in that, God taught me a whole load of lessons, and including me properly repenting, and even though I'd had this incredible encounter and experience, this spiritual experience at the Psychedelic Trance Festival, within a year I'd stopped smoking pot, stopped drinking, for the time being. I'd repented of my witchcraft and burnt. My mother actually found my tarot cards and burned them against my will, but I was glad she did, and I ended up repenting over it anyway, burning all my witchcraft books. I had an episode where I had such torment in the car that I got out of the car, which was basically screaming at me. It's a really hard thing to describe, but I was just so full of torment that I just had to get out and go for a walk. And by the time I got back, all my CDs had been nicked. And but it was a blessing in disguise, and God orientated that, because these CDs had a control over me. They were full of evil, and so all my cherished idols, from Pearl Jam to, I don't know, Funkadelic, they all disappeared. And even though I tried to buy some of them again, by that time I'd realized that these things had a real control over my life, and I ended up breaking them and getting rid of them anyway, so it was a waste of 50 quid to buy a lot of these CDs again. But a lot of what happened to me, the hell that I went through, was part of my redemption process and bringing me into repentance. And so I praise and thank God for it now, even though it was awful at the time. And I'll finish by saying that about, let's say, 2 years later, or was it 3, maybe 3, I'd gone through, I'd been in mental hospital a couple of times for doing mad things like trying to kill myself. And just generally being over the top, and that's a whole period of my life that's really hard to talk about, and I've never professed it publicly before. I've told other people who know anyway, and explained it to them, but I've never, this is going on YouTube. And but anyway, I found one of Rebecca Brown's books, who is she ministers to people who are in Satanism, and I read her book Unbroken Curses, and there were a whole load of prayers to pray in the back for like self-deliverance, and I knew I needed it, and I ended up praying these prayers in honesty and in earnest kind of like need, I suppose. And so I was just saying that I was praying these prayers, Unbroken Curses from Rebecca Brown, and basically that evening, because I knew that there was something in me that needed to come out. I'd been through all the trauma of mental illness and wanting to get better, wanting to do well in the Lord. And the Lord had been training me. I'd been reading the Bible, and I knew demons were real from reading the Bible. And that evening, prayed the prayers, and about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and it was literally like all these spirits, like, sounded like a freight train coming out of my mouth, like loads of them, and I just totally liberated after that, and I've been a normal, sane human being ever since, dressing normally. I used to dress like a freak, like a rock and roll star, big hats, bandanas, funny beards, that kind of thing. Like, I used to wear stupid trousers and kind of like new agey kind of look, and now, well, you can see I just wear normal stuff now, just a t-shirt and not trying to be anybody. I put on a lot of weight, alas, but other than that, I'm just normal, and since that day, and I've had deliverance since that day as well, so not everything came out, but there was a word of knowledge I had from someone at Brennan, which is a retreat in Wales, who told me that one Chinese girl that I slept with, the whole scenario brought in a demon that looked like a little black snake. And anyway, I got delivered from that after this, and I've had other deliverance too. And even though there's still something in there, as there is with everybody, no one's ever totally clean, in my opinion. Otherwise, you'd be perfect like Jesus, which none of us are. But as far as being washed, I think I'm pretty clean as far as it goes at the moment. I've had lots of other deliverance ministry going on with me, from Chris LaSala and Kelly Nicholson, and nothing even manifested. So yeah, other friends like Mandela Loves Jesus, he's tried to deliver me and nothing's manifested. That's not to say nothing's in there, but as far as I feel, I feel strong in the Lord now. And this is 10 years later after that conversion experience, and God's taken me from strength to strength. And I wanted to finish the conversion testimony. So obviously so much has happened in that time. I've had many other spiritual experiences with the Spirit of the Lord, and also with demons, in that 10 years, which I won't go into now. But essentially, I've been washed clean by the blood of Jesus, and praise the Lord, because there's nothing better than knowing Jesus personally. And if you don't know him, I recommend putting every ounce of your energy into trying to have a relationship and find him. Seek and you will find. It was true in my case. I was a seeker. I was seeking wisdom, as I told you, looking in all the wrong places, but eventually I discovered that the Bible is the truth, and that everything we need to know is in there, and that the peace of the Lord is with me. And I know the peace of the Lord. I know his amazing presence, and it's rare that a month would go by without some amazing spiritual experience from his Spirit. But he guides us generally through the words of the Bible, but they can be personal, and the Lord is personal with me. I don't know why he loves to do that with me, and it seems like he doesn't do that with other people who are really seeking him, and I don't know the answer for that, but he's brought me out of a terrible place, and I'd be in hell now without him. Not just because he saved us on the cross, but his continual ministry to me in the moment, in the now, as I've walked this 10 years trying to find his grace and his truth and his love to have and to hold forever. Without that, I'd be in hell for sure. So all praise to the Lord Jesus Christ, and thank you, Lord, for lifting me out of the mire. And I pray that this message would go and bless other people. And if you're an atheist or an agnostic watching, I have been mad, but I'm not mad now, and I still have many spiritual experiences, and no one can argue with your testimony. You can't argue with me. This is what happened to me. You can believe me or you don't have to, but this is what happened to me. and so much else has happened in that time. So I'll continue to post, I think, different parts of my testimony over the last 10 years. Maybe I'll go into more detail about the mental hospital side of things. Maybe I won't, I don't know. I need to be led by the Lord. But that's my conversion testimony. So bless you and have a good day.